Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/PettyRevenge. In today's episode, my guidance counselor told me I wasn't university material, and years later I pretended not to know her. Throw eggs at my car? Have fun washing and waxing for hours. Company denied me a raise and they ignored my requests. Ended up paying me $75,000 for their .com domains. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My guidance counselor told me I wasn't university material, and years later I pretended not to know her. I know it doesn't sound much like revenge, but it was oh so sweet, let me tell you. Back in high school, I struggled hard. I had a stepdad who adopted me and then ignored me my whole life, and a mom who was wrapped up in making his life perfect. Yeah, he was what some might call a textbook narcissist, with my mom as his flying monkey, Wizard of Oz reference. Anyway, school was a difficult time for me, and I had a lot of anxiety and a hard time focusing. I attended all my classes, and was always doing very well on my assignments, but had trouble completing them. My guidance counselor was the same all through high school, and every year would start with a meeting with her, and I would explain I needed more help, because I was struggling to focus. She brushed me off every time, stating that I obviously wasn't trying hard enough because I had no excuse, since my stepdad, adopted dad, was, wait for it, a social worker for the school board and personal friend of hers. Yeah, it was awful. At the end of high school, we had our obligatory meeting about what colleges/universities or trade schools to apply to. I told her I was interested in psychology and would like to be a counselor or to teach psychology. This woman scoffed. Literally scoffed at me. She said, and I quote, "Please do not apply to university. It would be a huge disappointment for you. You are not university material, and you may be better with a community college or even certificate in administration." Now, let me say there is nothing wrong with going to community college or getting a certificate in something. Nothing at all. But this woman's words would haunt me my whole life. I wanted to pursue something I was very interested in, and she essentially told me I wasn't smart enough or capable enough to do it. Fast forward to my late 20s. I worked at a variety of small jobs here and there and became very depressed. I finally decided one day that I'm applying for university. Well, I got in and I graduated with honors. So I went to Teachers College for another bachelor degree. Again, graduated with honors. And about 5 years ago, I finally finished my master's in behavioral psychology. 2 years ago, stepdad died, and who was at the visitation? My old guidance counselor. She came right over and started talking to me immediately like she knew me, like we're old friends. I cut her off and said, "I'm so sorry, you must be confusing me with someone else." She looked absolutely shocked and said I was your guidance counselor. For 4 years. And I just shook my head and gave the best blank look I could give, shrugged, and said, "Sorry, I honestly don't remember you." When I left, she looked a bit confused and disappointed. I think she had hoped for me to have all of these good memories of her, how helpful she was to me as a teen. But nope. I wanted her to feel that she was nothing to me. Had zero effect, even though she did affect me, I wasn't letting her know that. I felt pretty good about that. Edit, to anyone wondering, I now teach psychology to future counselors. So I'm doing what I originally wanted, and that made this so much sweeter. Second, edit, my mom had run into her a few times at the grocery store before this, and has bragged about my accomplishments, so I didn't have to tell her about them, she knew I was successful. Since she already knew, I pretended she was nobody to me, to ensure she understood she contributed nothing. Also, those who say she helped me in the end, and she was right. No. I asked her to help me for 4 years and got nothing. She laughed at my dreams and goals. She did not do her job. She failed as a guidance counselor and, frankly, also as a decent human being. Evil genius. Playing the long game. It was extremely satisfying, lol. Really put that education to good use, got right in her head, not being sarcastic. Good for you. She wanted kudos for a job well done, and you showed her she wasn't worth remembering. You showed her. Also, it really pisses me off that a guidance counselor refused to be encouraging to a student for years. Does she hate her job? Does she hate kids? Because she's doing everyone a disservice to everyone by being in that profession. Good luck to you. Well, it was a very small town, and not many people wanted to live/work there, so she likely was the best they could get. I mean, it's such a small town that her husband was the judge who completed the adoption process for my stepdad adopting me. She was horrible. I'm sorry she made you pause, and it's so awesome you still went after your dreams. Even for people who aren't naturally gifted/quick to learn, that can be compensated by increased dedication. No excuse for her. Throw eggs at my car? Have fun washing and waxing for hours. For a couple of weeks since school started, 2 neighborhood middle school kids, they are brothers, have been messing with my brother, also middle school aged, at school, on the bus, and in the neighborhood. Nothing very serious, but super annoying things like taking his backpack on the bus, calling him names, and taking his toys at the neighborhood pool. He told me, college-aged, about it and asked me to help, so the next time they came along while we were at the pool I chewed them out for a few minutes and they near shitted themselves. That seemed to fix it for a few days, after which I became their target. Now they didn't really mess with me directly, but instead my car. With my parents' help, I recently bought a 2021 Toyota Camry TRD V6. I have a much older car too from high school, gift from dad, but this one is really my pride and joy. Ask any of my neighbors and they'll know how much I love it. I wash it pretty much every weekend, lol. Now just yesterday when I was almost done applying a coat of wax, I ran inside to grab a glass of water. It's 97 degrees here in Atlanta SMH. I walk out to the driveway to see those MFs running away with an empty carton of eggs and my car covered in yolks and eggshells. I lose my shit and yell some nasty words at them. Not only had I washed it, but I had also waxed it this weekend, and that shit takes hours to do for a really clean finish. Luckily, I didn't notice any paint damage. Now I promptly drive my egg-covered car to those kids' parents' house and knock. I explained to the dad WTF just happened and the whole background. These people have been more hostile than friendly in the past, but the dad looked pissed at what happened and he noticed how F***ed my car was. Now this dude is a linebacker-sized Marine veteran. He instantly called his older kid and yelled at him to bring both of their asses home right now. ATP, the dad is profusely apologizing for his kid's behavior, and a few minutes later they show up. This man has the voice of a drill sergeant and he brought tears to his kids' faces in seconds. Made them do push-ups and shit right there outside LMFAO with both of us watching. After that, he asks me to go home and they'll be over in a few minutes to clean up my car. All 3 of them come over and I command those brats to rinse and wash and dry and everything. The whole time the dad stood right there pointing out his kids' mistakes. We did that for hours until my car was spotless and shiny as a diamond. Before they left, he made his kids apologize again for what they did. Even though it was a massive inconvenience on my Saturday, I still feel like it's a W since I know those slimy chimps will never mess with me or my family again. And that is what happens when the punishment fits the crime. Yes, it is a huge inconvenience, but it is educational. Congratulations! That's great! And the father deserves an award for actually parenting. Definitely. The kids totally learned some lessons. Wow, a dad that acts like a dad and not a friend to his kids. You got lucky, my friend. I would take him a 6er of whatever you think he would like. Although coconut eggs, while young my brothers and I spent a day playing on the parents' minivan. Muddy hand and footprints all over the vehicle. We ended up having to wash it every day for a week as punishment after being yelled at by our lumberjack father. Never did it again, lol. That dad did you a favor, but he also did himself a favor. Nip that behavior sooner rather than later and he'll have a much easier time over the next 6 to 8 years. A small amount of time spent to teach a lifetime lesson to these kids. Company denied me a raise and they ignored my requests. Ended up paying me $75,000 for their .com domains. DR company didn't buy the domains for their brands, ended up paying me $75,000 after refusing a $25,000 increase in my yearly contract. I worked for a startup company since the very early stages as their only designer. For 2 years I was responsible for everything web and graphic design related, packaging, collaterals, product images, Amazon listings, etc. Because they couldn't offer me benefits, they hired me as an independent contractor, so I wasn't considered an employee at all. Fast forward 2 years later, the company is making millions a month selling on Amazon. I told them my rate was going to increase to reflect the success of the company and the role I played in such rapid growth, but they declined and told me they were going to end my contract. Later learned they were planning to hire someone in India to do the job cheaper. Before they terminated my contract, they asked me to make a website to start selling their products and set up a subscription-based model. They had several brands, so I had to make several websites for each brand. Because they couldn't be bothered to buy the hosting or the domain, I ended up building the whole thing on my personal hosting with the intention of transferring everything once they bought everything needed to get the site live. Despite reminding them to buy the domains for all their brands and hosting so I could transfer everything before my contract was terminated, they ignore me. Notice that all their business was through Amazon and they only owned the parent company domain. After my contract ended, I handed over the files and bought a lot of the domain variations for their brands: brand.com, brand.net, brand.store, brand-industry.com, etc. A couple of months went by and I got an email from the CEO asking why I didn't transfer ownership of the domains to them, and I forwarded him all my emails reminding them that it was their responsibility to register the domains and that I had bought the domains with my own money after they terminated my contract, so I legally owned all of them. He tried to claim trademark violation and start litigation, so I offered to transfer ownership of all the domains for $30,000 each. They had 3 brands, so $90,000. After some back and forth, we settled for $75,000, signed a contract, and they cut me a check. Note: I left out a very important factor, but I didn't want to make the post too long. About 18 months after the company started, it got sanctioned by the FDA and FTC because the name of all the brands contained a restricted word that requires certification, which was used prominently in all materials, labels, and packaging. While the name trademark was not affected, the logotype had to be changed, effectively rebranding the whole thing. So the domains they wanted were not the exact trademark. Example: brand certified products, brand products on the box and materials. This isn't petty revenge. This is another level. Outstanding work. OP even reminded them to register the domain before the contract terminated. It's nice enough before teaching them a lesson. Should have stayed firm on $90,000. Should have leased them back for $90K a year in maintenance. Lawyer fees would eat up that $15K pretty fast. Domain name are cheap, but can also be expensive. Over a decade ago, had client that decided Buddy could better support his computers, website, etc. Gave them all the information, got hosting, registrar, etc. pulled by credit card info from the auto renews. Reminded them to change the contact emails. Year or two later, client came back and tried to blame me for the $5,000 they paid to Domain Squatter after it expired. Not my problem if your buddy didn't update the billing/reminder email. I would have offered the domains to their closest competitors to use as a bargaining chip. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.